Hello, Donnie. Great to have you back. Welcome.
Thanks for having me, Steve.
Well, it's another slow time of the year. Not much going on. We're obviously playing the waiting game. We'll see what the next 24 hours bring with Manny Diaz. What's been just, look, he's going to be a hot commodity. So that part was not a surprise. Donnie?
Yeah, Steve. I'm sorry about that.
Oh, that's
okay. Man, you there?
Yes, I'm here.
Sorry about that. But it's been such a slow time of year that I fell asleep there for a second. It's with Manny. It's you go into the off season knowing that somebody's going to want him, and it's just a matter of, is the job going to be one that he, number one, wants to be at for a while, or two, thinks that can get him to a level where he wants to be at as a head coach, wherever that may be. And it's not surprising. As soon as Duke, when Mike Elko goes to Texas A&M, you knew that's an opening that kind of made some sense for him. It's in North Carolina, in the ACC. They're going to. He's got some connections there for sure, and it made some sense. So that was kind of one that was on the radar for a couple of days now anyway, where Manny would make some sense. And it's just a matter of, at this point, does he feel that staying at Penn State is better than being the head coach at Duke? And I don't know what the answer is ultimately going to be, but one way or the other, I mean, that's life as a big time coordinator. I mean, when you've had success, I mean, everybody wants you, everybody is going to be after you, and I think that's a good thing for Penn State, and I think Penn State thinks that's a good thing for Penn State to have these in-demand coordinators. And it's certainly, if he leaves, it'll set up a very interesting search for his replacement, because it's a little bit different. We kind of know what James Franklin likes to go after on the offensive coordinator front, because he's changed them quite a bit. But really, it's only been Manny outside of Brent Pry for 10 years. It seemed like as the defensive coordinator, where he's only really made one outside hire since Bob Shoop was the defensive coordinator when he got to Penn State. So there's going to be some mystery involved if Manny Diaz leaves as to how James Franklin's going to go about replacing him.
As players announce their decisions, and I feel like whenever somebody announces their decision, it's like everybody gets their own day to do it. The staff already knows who's staying and going. But the first one to say he was going and not going to play in the Peach Bowl was Chop Robinson. What was your thought on that?
That's not another one that if you're a Penn State fan, you're probably watching Chop and hoping he wants to play, but thinking that's not going to happen. But I mean, I was thinking this the other day. How good is Chop Robinson historically at Penn State? Because I think, you look at his explosiveness off the edge, and the way he played was really perfect for the system that Manny runs at Penn State. He's constant pressure on the quarterback. He's able to line up in different spots. The Iowa game was a real clinic with that, with Chop in that prowler package, lining up all over the place, over center, doing a really good job there, showing his versatility. But I think Chop's one of those guys who can do anything. He's clearly going to play in the NFL. He's clearly a top 1 or 2 round on pretty much every analyst. And not that really matters, but when you have a consensus like that, it shows you what the industry thinks of him. And I think Chop at that point made a decision for himself that I think Penn State understands, and Penn State fans should understand, because he had a really good 2-year run, and he's an NFL guy. And it's interesting. I would love to be a fly on the wall in these discussions about who plays the bowl game or who doesn't, who leaves early and who doesn't, because you want to know what realistically goes into it. But there seems to be no. Sometimes you do at other programs, especially, you see guys who don't really have a realistic shot at going in the first or second round, kind of opting out just to in hopes that they will get that chance. But I think Chop is one of those guys where you look at the body of work, and it was exemplary for 2 seasons, and now it's time to go.
Then there's Olu Fashanu. Olu, so far CBS, Sports Illustrated, The Athletic have come out with their All-American teams. He's first-team All-American on all of them to this point. Donnie, you go through 2 years. 2 years. He never gave up a sack. You watched it just like I did.
Yeah, I don't know if and I'm certainly not an NFL GM or a scouting guy or whatever, and I certainly don't have the number 1 pick in the draft. I don't work for the Bears, but I don't know how you. I don't know how you.
There's going to be a lot of people not. There's going to be a lot of people not working for the Bears in about a month.
yeah. I'm thankful I'm not working for the Bears, right?
yeah.
I'm getting my affairs in order.
Yeah.
But yeah. Olu is. I don't remember a more dominant college football player. I really can't. Where he comes in, and the first time you saw him in that really got a good look at him in that Outback Bowl, and you thought, hey, where has this guy been? Why is this guy not playing for? He's a starter caliber right there. Sometimes it's obvious, and it's been obvious with Olu from the first day. And you go back and you watch some games, and sometimes I just sit and watch Olu on offense. And it's fascinating because his guy, no matter what they threw at him, he stonewalled it. He was very consistent, great in the run game, great in pass protection. And the crazy thing with Olu is, what is he, 21?
Yes.
He's not even. He's just learning how to play. He's got this unreal talent that is translating to dominance at the college level, and certainly he's going to the NFL. I don't think he hasn't made a decision to my knowledge yet, unless it's happened in the last half hour. But certainly to my knowledge, he's going to be the top tackle taken, and should be. And I think he should be the top player taken in the draft. Now, whether he plays in the bowl game or not, I don't know. I think he's a little different because he didn't play in the bowl game last year. Not that matters. I think in this day and age where I don't think Olu's going to in 15 years when he's an All-Pro and his career is over, hopefully looking back and saying I really wish I played in the Rose Bowl or the Peach Bowl. But I don't know that it's not a factor either. So I think it'll be interesting to see. And the one thing and you know it as well as I do. Players at Penn State seem to play the bowl game at a higher rate, these prospect types, more than they do at other schools.
Yes.
So I think that, however James Franklin and the staff kind of sell them on the benefits of that, he does a great job of it, where they don't even try or aren't as successful in other places. So maybe Olu gives it a shot. I think there's a couple of guys who will maybe consider playing in the game that you would think could consider opting out.
What do you think of this matchup and this game, the way it ended up playing out with the Peach Bowl?
I think it's a somewhat dangerous matchup for Penn State, in the sense that I think Ole Miss is better than the public thinks it is. They have a really good running back. Judkins is a terrific running back. You didn't have as good a year this year as he did. Yeah, last year he had a better statistical season, but he's a good player. Mm-hmm. Jackson Dart is tremendous. I think he's going to be one of the 2 or 3 best quarterbacks they'll have seen all year. He might be a little bit of McCarthy. Yeah. So they're a better team than people think, but they're coming in ranked a little lower than Penn State. It's not like you're playing Oklahoma, where it's a blue blood, and you think even if Oklahoma's a little down, you've accomplished something. You've beaten Oklahoma. But I think this is, or certainly Georgia, other schools like that it could have played in this if the standings were a little different than they are right now. But if you look at Ole Miss and what they're all about, I think it's a very good contrast of style. I think it'll be an entertaining game. A really great defense against a really terrific offense. But I think the general mindset of this from Penn State fans will be Penn State should win this game, and I think they should. But just keep in mind, this is a SEC team coming into a bowl game, and they're going to be pretty close to full strength. I mean, they're not going to lose all that much. Lane Kiffin said as much at the press conference on Sunday, and if you look at it, I mean, they haven't really lost a ton. It's very rare these days where you get a full strength SEC team in a New Year's Six game. But I think Penn State's going to get one, and I think it's going to be a really good challenge because I think Penn State outside of Chop will be as close to full strength as you can expect them to be. And Chop makes a big difference, but that's certainly a deep position too. So I think this is going to be of the New Year's Six games, I think this is the most fun matchup outside of the playoff.
Yeah, no, there's no question. And it's interesting because that team, Ole Miss, is really built on the transfer portal. 21 of the 25 top 25 guys on defense, 21 of them are transfers. 14 of their top 25 on offense are transfers. So Lane Kiffin has used the portal over and over and over again.
It's really going to be interesting to, in 10 years, I think, go back and look at how different programs used it because, I like the way Penn State uses it.
Me too.
They use it at certain positions, and I really think the way to use it, kicker and punter every year, just go get your kicker and punter out of the portal. I think that's really smart. I think that's the way they do it. Get your backup line, get your rotational pieces on both lines out of the portal. Penn State's done that. If you're looking for number one receivers out of the portal, sometimes you're going to hit, sometimes you're going to miss. And I think when you look at Ole Miss, and a good example is Michigan State. I mean, the first year out, they hit home runs out of the portal. Kenneth Walker, a lot of different guys like that,
True.
And they were great. They haven't hit out of the portal since. And I think Ole Miss is in one of those spots where they've hit out of the portal. So I think everyone's going to have a different portal mindset as this thing gets more established. But Kiffin is a guy who he's a weird guy in the sense that he's kind of got this professional mindset about it because his dad was such a big time assistant coach in the pros. So I think he knows how to build teams in ways that on untraditional ways here that some college coaches won't. So I think Kiffin makes that a dangerous spot. And this is a team, Ole Miss, that right now they're kind of just a sleeper here, but I think when you talk about the 12-team playoff, I think that's another team that's benefited by that.
Yeah. Well, they would have been in. They'd be getting ready for Georgia. Penn State be getting ready for Ohio State. How interested are you?
That'd be a fun one.
Yes. Yeah. What? How interested are you to spend a few days listening to Lane Kiffin and to cover him because that's something none of us have had a chance to do? How interested are you in that part?
Surprisingly very. A couple of buddies of mine. I actually have a buddy who does radio at Kentucky, and so most of the year he talks. He'll send me a lot of stuff. Hey, did you hear what Kiffin said this time about whatever? And it's like once a month I get a Lane Kiffin text. So I'm intrigued to see about him, and that's something I think that I don't necessarily write about the coaches so often, but I do like to see what they're all about because they're the consistent part of these programs, right? I mean, when you think of Ole Miss, you think of Lane Kiffin first and foremost, and that was the two teams I really wanted to see in a bowl matchup, just based on who the head coach was either Missouri with Drinkwitz because he's kind of a character too,
yep,
and definitely Ole Miss with Kiffin because who knows? I mean, it's not like Penn State's going to play Ole Miss every year. Maybe once every 10 years if they run into each other in a tournament, then you could see that. But I think it'll be really fun to see what he's all about and kind of get to know him a little bit better because he is fun. I mean, he's not everybody's cup of tea, especially in the SEC, but he is a fun guy for the game, and I kind of think I like characters, so I'm looking forward to Lane a little bit.
In the end, we know how it played out with the four teams in the playoff. The bottom line is they were supposed to start the 12-team playoff this year, but that fraud alliance, that's my word, Donnie, that Warren and Phillips and Kleofkoff formed without a signed contract delayed it. So the ACC commissioners are part of the delay. How do you think it, in the end, did they make the right four choices?
Yeah, it depends on. I mean, look, it doesn't. This is one of those things I tell everybody this. It doesn't matter what I think because when does it really matter what any one person
that's right.
thinks? But the rules are the rules, and it says nowhere in there in the bylaws of the College Football Playoff Committee do you take the four most deserving teams. Because if so, Penn State would have been in the tournament 7 years ago. I mean, and I think everybody kind of understands that. What you have here is take the four best teams, and there's a very narrow list of things that everybody knows about that they have to consider, and strength of schedule is one of them, and head-to-head matchups is one of them, and conference championships is one of them. And Florida State on strength of schedule was 55th, and Alabama was 9th or something like that. And you're not. I'm sorry to say this to Florida State, but I don't know what they expected. Well,
right.
Do you expect them to leave the SEC out because they beat Louisville by 10 points in the ACC championship game? No, they're not leaving the SEC out. They're not leaving Michigan out, and they're not leaving Washington out. Washington's a very exciting team. So they're just not doing any of that. So it's basically one spot for everybody else. And I put on Twitter on Saturday before the game, they have to be really, really impressive to make this tournament. And I got a lot of blowback on it, but
right.
They did. They had to be really impressive offensively with a backup quarterback. They had to show that kid could win, and they didn't. And I think it stinks for Florida State. But look at this. Look at it this way. They knew there was 5 conferences. They're the Power 5. It says right in the title, Power 5. But there's only 4 spots, and they do this so they can manipulate it a little bit. It's just the way of the world. I mean, they want to. The ratings do matter. And I'm not saying I think ESPN had anything to do with it. I think they got the 4 quote-unquote best teams. I don't think they got the 4 most deserving teams, but they got the 4 best, and that's really what they're charged with. Now, do I wish the SEC got left out? Yes, because I think that would have been a pretty good story to follow, and it would have been funny. But I don't think I could sit here and make a good argument that Florida State with a backup quarterback was going to beat Alabama. And also, at that same note, if Jordan Travis doesn't get hurt, do I think Florida State's going to make the field? Yes. I think Alabama's out at that point. I think that the committee, whether you agree with them or not, is consistently inconsistent in a way where they get the 4 teams that I think the majority of the people think are the 4 best, whether that's a painful decision or not. I think it just happened to be a painful decision this year because Florida State had a legitimate claim, and the SEC champion had 1 loss. But it was a different kind of year. I mean, very few people talking about this, but Georgia was the number 1 seed going into the weekend, and they didn't make the tournament. And not that I think they should have, but that's the first time ever that happened. That somebody went in at number 1 into the championship weekend and didn't make the field. So I think a lot of different things happened because it was so close at the top, and there's really not a clear number 1 team. I think everybody. You ask 100 people, and you're going to get maybe 25 people saying each of those 4 teams could win the tournament. So I think it was a little bit just of a different year, and hey, it's the last year of it too until next year when the number 13 and 14 teams start complaining.
The only part of that answer that hurt was the part that we can give opinions and nobody should care. Right? Geez, Donnie, this entire show's built on that.
Yeah, that's a career with opinions that, as James says to me, opinions you state as facts, and now I just go and blow the cover on it. I know, but
because I've said that for a long time. It says, you know what, people can disagree with what I think. That's fine. I don't worry about stuff like that. They're just opinions. Hey, Donnie, thank you so much. Really appreciate the time, as always, my friend.
All right, Steve, no problem. We'll see you.
True privilege to bring in the legendary play-by-play voice of Ole Miss football, basketball. Ole Miss able to beat Troy, now 11-0, the best start in 16 years for Ole Miss basketball after they won last night. We welcome in David Kellum. David, welcome. It's great to have you with us.
Steve, thank you very much. I love the legendary. That just means you've been doing this a long time, I guess.
It also is a level of respect, my friend, a level of respect.
Thank you, my friend. Thank you much.
Let's start with this. I know recruiting plays into why guys get contract extensions, but Lane Kiffin did just sign a contract extension with Ole Miss. What kind of energy and juice has he pumped into the program as a head coach?
Well, a lot. I mean, he really has. He's done a phenomenal job. Kind of survived some staff changes last year, brought in a new staff and in several spots, and has really hired well. They've recruited well. He's got tremendous offensive mind and really does get it. And he's really engaged the fan base. And so, there's a good relationship right now for sure, but that's usually based on success, and he's been very successful since he's arrived at Ole Miss.
No question. And part of that has been the use of the transfer portal. I've got 21 of the top 25 guys on defense being transfers, and obviously the top 3 quarterbacks are. What has that meant to at least steady the program so then he can then recruit the 3 to 5 year players?
Yeah, I think the main thing was that he embraced that immediately. I know you heard coaches when the portal thing first came out would say, I don't know if we're going to do that, and Lane embraced that immediately. He has a little bit of a pro background, obviously, and so he determined that, that's the rule, that's the way they want us to play the game. We're going to play it to the best of our ability. And so he's done a super job in the portal world and gotten, like you said, I mean, you go across the board, there are a lot of key players on this football team that came in via the portal, and several of them that will be with us in the future too. But I think that embracing it early, having a plan of attack, our collective that we put together has been very, very aggressive, done a nice job. We're not the biggest fan base in the world, but we have responded as far as the NIL piece goes. And so I think that he's really got everybody pulling in the right direction.
Yeah, but you have a passionate fan base. I love the passion of the Ole Miss fan base whenever I've been around them. Tremendous. I've got to ask you, before I get to Jackson Dart, outside of Jackson Dart, when Jack Ham and I looked at the tape, the first thing that struck both of us was the play of your tight end, Caden Prescorn, and what he means to all elements of your offense. Are we spot on there, or are we missing something?
No, you're 100% right. In fact, he was hurt coming out of camp. Actually had a good camp, got hurt right before we started the season. We were missing him in a big way early. And when he was inserted into the lineup on a regular basis, he's just been fantastic. He's a good blocker, got great hands. I mean, he's a pro-type tight end, and he has made a huge difference for us and brings good leadership to the table, too. And he's a portal kid from Memphis. He played at the University of Memphis, did a wonderful job there before coming to us. But, yeah, he does kind of jump out on the tape because he just does so many positives for us. And the cool thing about him is he's an older player. He's married, got a little one, so he's very mature on top of everything else. So he brings a really nice leadership piece to the team.
No question. Now let's get to Jackson Dart. We'll finally get to him. Transfer out of USC. He's been now at Ole Miss a couple of years. What have you seen and liked in his development with Lane Kiffin?
The main thing is, he's had 3 straight years where he's had to compete for his job, which is kind of wild because he's a phenomenal quarterback. He had to do that at USC, also the first 2 years here, and he came out of camp having won the job. We got Sanders from Oklahoma State that came in here too, and it was a heck of a competition before we started the season, but he won it, got in there. And I think the main thing that he's done, Lane has got him really better in the turnover world, reduced his interceptions dramatically. He can run on you. He's one of those guys that you look at him and you say, well, he's not going to run. Well, he runs a lot. I mean, he really does. That's part of the offense, too. I think he's gotten to the point where he throws the deep ball better as well. But he's really solid quarterback and make all the throws and now really gets the offense.
Also can move. I mean, that's the other element, too. You watch when he can run with the football. I mean, you're not going to sit there and he's not going to run the ball 10, 12 times in a game. But what does his movement mean to keep drives alive?
I think it's huge, and a lot of times, and nothing against the quarterback world, running backs can cut and see things a little bit better sometimes because that's their job.
Yeah.
But he runs like a running back. I mean, he really does. He sees the field really well. The thing that drives us crazy sometimes is he won't slide enough. He's one of those lower shoulder and run over you type guys. So he is really, when he does run, he runs with a running back mentality. But it makes the defense really have to be honest with him. And then there's a lot of times he'll pull up close to the line and dump the ball off. It's part of this offense. But yeah, he's definitely a weapon in the running game.
Yeah, but that's good. Jack and I say that all the time about Drew Aller. Like, slide. it's okay.
Right.
And Drew was telling me, he said, well, I kind of do it like a sideways. That way, he says, that way they mark it where you go down. I'm like, okay, all right. Okay.
Yeah, I saw Drew. In fact, at one of your games, I've been watching several games, and I saw him do exactly that. He kind of ran up. He said, "I think I'm going to slide. I almost want to slide." And then he slid sort of sideways. But hey, he's pretty smart. That really puts the ref in a tough bind. Was he sliding or not?
Yeah, exactly right. Hey, one element that was a problem for you in the Mississippi State game and the Egg Bowl game was that they had some guys banged up in the offensive line.
Right.
How important has that offensive line been, and how are they right now?
We had to move some people around for sure. They did a really nice job in that game. I think that got to the point where it looked like our defense was going to hold them, and so we really turned that into a running game on our offense, which kept the score down a good bit. But Jaden Williams is the one that we were missing primarily. Hopefully he'll be back. I know he's been in practice some, and we'll see if he can come back and be effective, and we can move the pieces back to where they belong. Micah Pettis, who got hurt, the right tackle, is still going to be out. I mean, he's had surgery, and so we could still be down a couple of tackles in the game, which is definitely no fun, but we've got pretty good depth there, and we'll see if Jaden can play.
All right, so now let's get to you mentioned the running game. Well, I'll tell you, Judkins is really good. And the backup kid is really good. I mean, what have they meant to – because everyone thinks that Lane is pass all the time. He loves the running game. So what have these guys meant?
And that's a good point, Steve, because people think of Lane as, pass happy, air raid-ish type offense, and that's not the case at all.
Right.
If he can run on you, he will run on you, and pretty much takes it game from game. But he's always had in his offense really good running backs, and so Judkins is fantastic. He's one of those kids that just a rare talent, and Bentley's got breakaway speed, and the two of them complement each other really, really well. But Lane likes to run, and doesn't mean he won't throw it 100 times too. But he really does a good job of trying to stay as balanced as possible. We've been in the top 3 in the SEC in rushing since he's been here.
Yeah, and the 3 wideouts are separated, by 5 catches between the 3 of them? Like 47 to 52 or 53 or some number like that. What does each bring to the table that makes them inviting targets for Jackson?
Well, we're one of 2 teams in the country that's got 3 receivers with 700 yards or more each.
Yeah.
And Trey Harris is kind of the taller kid, came in from Louisiana Tech. Really good hands for all of them. Primarily, they run really nice routes, but Trey was a really good get for us, if you will. He's a great example of being best player on a team that maybe is not in some of our bigger leagues like we play in, that wanted to try a better opportunity. So he came to Ole Miss, and he's flourished really, really nicely. And then Dayton Wade, smaller receiver, got great hands. He's made some acrobatic catches. And then Walton, too, has been fantastic as well, Western Kentucky and Louisville transfers. And so all 3 of those are portal guys that have been really effective. I think the main thing is great hands. They run really good routes, and they have flourished in Lane's offense.
3-3-5 on defense, David, which brings with it multiple looks. But, what have they liked about the defense, and also the fact that they like going with a 3-3-5?
Well, and Pete has adjusted that occasionally in different games. I think that's the base where he likes to start. But he has run a lot of 5 front 2, different things, depending on who the opponent is. But you're right, that's pretty much his base. I think the main thing is the depth in the defensive front. We have had years where we've really struggled with depth and trying to get through the season and keeping everybody healthy on that defensive front. But we're running 8 or 9 in that front, and we're staying fresh at the end. And all pretty much every kid that plays there, talked to J.J. Pegues about it here just recently, that they're fresh at the end of the game because there's a really good rotation there, and it's a quality rotation. So I think that's the main thing, as far as the defense goes. Really talented defensive backfield. Linebackers are solid as well. So we've got some depth issues here and there, and I know they're trying to fix that in the recruiting piece. Pete wants us to get better, obviously, on the defensive side, but I think the rotation on the defensive front is what's helped us this year for sure.
Yeah, I've got a lot of defensive linemen on my chart because I see the rotation on tape. Secondary-wise, I really like Saunders and Washington. What's your thought on each one of those two guys?
They're interchangeable, can play safety or corner. And of course, they kind of settled into their spots this time of year. But coming out of camp, there was, a lot of question mark about who's going to be corner, who's going to be safety. DeAndre Prince is an outstanding corner as well. JUCO transfer that's done a real good job. But run the ball well. They're bigger. We've kind of had some small corners and safeties in the past, and they're taller and all, and they've done a pretty good job. And you know how it is, Steve. It's all about that defensive front. If they get a little pressure, get some heat, and you look at your guys' numbers with all the sacks and all, it makes such a huge difference when you're putting all that pressure on a quarterback, and we've been able to do that a little bit too.
Yeah, we mentioned earlier your great fan base, and they really are. I love the passion of the Ole Miss fan base. You can tell how much they mean in the state. What does this particular game, the fact it's a New Year's Six game, now it's not the first New Year's Six game that Lane's coached them to, but what does this game mean to that fan base?
Well, I think two things. One, to play Penn State in general. I mean, it's a big-name school. You think about the history of what Penn State's been able to do through the years. I mean, that's incredible as well. And so I think our fans are excited to be able to play Penn State just in general. And the flip side is we've never won 11 games in this program in any year. And so trying to get to 11th win. And you're right, our fan base really pushes our players. And so I'm sure they're reading and hearing all that stuff. But the opportunity to play a Penn State in a bowl. I mean, next year this could be a playoff game where we're trying to advance.
Right.
And so it's kind of unique, I think, in those two categories.
Yeah, if the 12-team playoff were this year, both schools would have made the 12-team playoff. Now, you'd be getting ready for a rematch with Georgia, and Penn State would be getting ready for a rematch with Ohio State, but that's a different story, different day.
That's the thing that's so similar about the two programs, too. So we lost to Georgia and Bama, on the road. Penn State lost to their top two in the league. But I bet you that both would like another shot at some of those teams. So maybe next year when we get in the playoffs, we'll have that solved.
Yeah, exactly. I do have to ask you about those two games. You played both of them tough. Right? What, in the end, was the difference in each one of those games in your view, David?
I think with Alabama playing on the road, Milroe had his best game to that point. The quarterback played really well. It was a tight game, low-scoring game, and we did hang in there deeper in that game. But we were banged up, had some injuries here and there. But playing in Tuscaloosa is very, very difficult, and just couldn't get it done. The Georgia game was tight early, and then they just really turned it on and played so well the rest of the game. I talked to some of Georgia's people I've been friends with for years, and almost to a person, they told me that this was the best game Georgia had played. And one person I have a lot of respect for told me that Georgia team really cared about this game. I said, well, don't care about it. Leave us alone, But they really did play their best game of the year. And I know that's coach speak and sounds that way, but they were so impressive, and we just couldn't keep up with them at Athens. But playing on the road, two very difficult places, and we let the Georgia game get away, but we hung in there pretty good with Alabama.
I have to ask you, what do you think about the expansion with Texas and Oklahoma coming in beginning next season?
Why are we doing that? That's my question. This league is already crazy.
I mean, the Big Ten has USC, UCLA, Washington, and Oregon. Like I said to somebody, everybody's job just got tougher.
I know it. It's crazy. It's going to make for some fun competition. Fan bases are going to love it. I think that, we have played Texas and Oklahoma a little bit because we kind of lean toward that side of the conference, if you will, in non-conference matchups in football and also in baseball and basketball a little bit too. So it's not totally new to our particular program, but I mean, you know, they're two great programs, tons of success in multiple sports, and their fan bases are very, very passionate as well. Texas, we played them in a non-conference home and away. They came to the Grove and basically took it over. There were so many Texas people here, it was unbelievable. And then that was their first time to come, and then we went there the next year. They beat us badly here. We beat them badly there. So we have that in our background, not too many years ago. But I think it's going to be fun and interesting to see how it goes. We're going to play 8 games this upcoming year, but probably go to 9 before it's over with. And it'll give the conference even more, you know, I would think recognition nationally as well.
Last question, this will actually be about Ole Miss basketball, because the last time I did a Penn State Ole Miss game was at the Barclays Center, and Dermot Davis was the head coach at the time, and Ole Miss had a tremendous comeback. You won the game. Chris Beard's now the head coach. Off to a great start, best start in 16 years. What kind of difference has he made in the program at Oxford?
I think a lot of focus, you know, and that's coach speak too, but he's done a really nice job of making the kids the returning kids especially, realize, hey, you can be successful. We can win here. We're going to win here. He's engaged the fan base, and we've been fortunate in some games now. You go back and look, we've won some tight ones. You look across the country, and a lot of the differences in the records are those that, you know, didn't get it done in the last 2 or 3 possessions, but Ole Miss has been pretty consistent at the end. But we've got Matt Morrell, who's a fantastic player, also Duke transfer, and Jamin Brakefield has been here a couple of years, and so you kind of work around those two. And Chris went out and did some good stuff in the portal as well, and he's just a great coach. He's all about ball, very focused coach, but I think out of the gate, he's really convinced the fans to get behind the program, and usually you have to prove yourself before they'll do that. But he's got them engaged early, and now he is also winning. So we've got some pretty excited fans about basketball right now.
5-0 in games decided by 3 points or less, just in case anybody's wondering.
Right.
David, absolute pleasure. As always, and I know when I've seen you, I've said this to you personally, but congratulations on what continues to be a great career and what you mean to Ole Miss football, basketball, baseball as well, and what you mean to the fan base there. I know down there you are universally beloved, and we appreciate the time you gave us today, and I'm really looking forward to seeing you again down in Atlanta.
Steve, thanks so much, and back to you. Appreciate your work and all, and looking forward to seeing you in the Peach Bowl, and I'm sure there'll be tons of Penn State and Ole Miss people ready to get after each other. Should be fun.
Sounds great. Have a great holiday, and look forward to seeing you.
Same to you. Merry Christmas.